Welcome, everybody, to the Proactive Adventure Health and Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm here with ultra runner, trail runner, marathon runner, hiker.
No marathons yet.
No marathons
No
yet.
marathons yet.
All just ultra marathons?
Yeah. The Breakneck Marathon, that was my only marathon.
Okay, so
I don't know if that counts, though.
You do. That
was
does
a
count.
trail.
That still counts, I think. I take it. Distance-wise?
It's ultra. Any marathon that takes some people 16 hours to finish, it's probably ultra.
This man's a runner.
Yeah.
You're also at the top of the list in the Proactive Challenge. You're number one right now.
Just holding on.
Justin Lewandowski.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you made it. Finally.
I did. I made it. It was a journey.
I have something to give you.
Oh, man.
Start this off. You know what these are.
Oh,
You got to give him his patches for Beacon Bully and for Winaki Derby.
thank you.
There you go. You've earned those.
These were well earned,
Oh, yeah.
especially this one. The
That was
Winaki Derby.
The Winaki Derby.
That was a roller coaster.
How was your day that day?
It was good. It was a nice morning. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and I'd never really been there before outside of Stonetown Circular. So I had the Gaia app up on my phone with the GPX file saved, and it's such a windy, grouped together matrix of trails.
Oh, yeah.
That's out there. And then there's one that you just have to go out to one little viewpoint and then turn around and come right back. So I had my phone out the whole time, which was not ideal for a run like that, where you're trying to just get it done, not just get it done, but you're trying to figure out where you go.
Oh, yeah.
I got lost at one point and I had to bushwhack and cross maybe a 20-foot river, which was not a small river.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found enough rocks to kind of skip across. And then right up, a leaf steep hill. It wasn't a trail, but got back on the course, and it was very, very cool day. Yeah.
Winaki Derby, out of all of our hikes that we have set up like that, is the one that you have to look at the map the whole time, I feel like. Because there's so many twists and turns and different colored trails.
Yeah.
And it's in Northern Green. I feel like it doesn't get enough credit for how rugged it is.
It's what trail runners describe as ankle break city. A lot of those areas, because like you said, it's not really well known. It's not really used.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of traffic through there. And a lot of the trails are just covered up with leaves, sticks, debris. You're on the trail, but you can't really tell you're on the trail sometimes. So, it's good though. If you want to challenge, find the trail map somehow, and
We'll get it to you.
yeah, it's out there. It's out there, but I would definitely bring a GPX file on your phone to stay on course, because without it, I don't know.
You'd be lost.
I'd still be out there.
I believe it.
Yeah.
So where are you coming from today? What'd you do this morning?
Today I was at it's a Sunday, so I was out at Mount Tammany, New Jersey, the Delaware Water Gap, doing a shorter trail run. I only did 2 loops around the mountain. Normally I'll do 3 to 6. Sometimes I've done 7. But I PR'd the second lap today on it, so it was big.
Congratulations.
It's a special day. I'm not just here doing a wonderful podcast, but it was a Tammany PR. I got in the top 10, which is a big deal for the New Jersey, trail running community.
Mm-hmm.
Up there with some pretty special names. Yeah, that's the number one. I don't think is ever going to get taken down.
How far ahead of you is the number one?
A solid 5 minutes.
That's pretty.
An
rough to
honest
beat.
5, a man's 5. No, it's a woman's 5. But yeah, I'm 33 minutes, and the top is 27:54 maybe.
Wow.
So it's I think it's untouchable.
Well, you're one of the fastest people I know, so I could imagine.
Yeah,
If you're saying that, it must be true.
Yeah, it's like a once in a lifetime loop.
You want to go back to the beginning here?
Yeah.
I'm interested to find out how we're getting to this point with you right now. As a child, were you an athlete?
So growing up, I got involved in like, like everybody, like soccer, baseball. You're playing all sorts of different sports. My dad was a big swimmer. He used to swim marathons around Manhattan. I think they still do it as a race, but I was all like athletics were there. And then as I got a little older, I kind of really focused on ice hockey and lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
And so running wasn't really something I did outside of training or doing it in a game. And I tried 1 year of cross country in middle school, and I hated it.
Is that right?
I was good, but I absolutely hated it. Like the stress all day of knowing I had to, and it was only 1.5 miles that he did. It wasn't like a 5K. But just knowing I had to redline and suffer for like 9 or 10 minutes, it was too much for me. I couldn't deal with it, all day. So I quit after that. And I didn't really pick up trail running, I guess you could call it, until I was like 26.
Oh, so a big gap there.
Yeah. And even then it was just, I just started hiking. The first time I went to Mount Tammany, it was the middle of the winter. It was all ice. I was having a lot of trouble getting up and getting down because I just didn't have spikes on or anything.
Yeah.
And after that, I started, looking up some places that were local to me that were like that. So I found Breakneck Ridge, which I'm sure everybody watching this has been familiar with. I know, you're very familiar with it. But I like found that, and I found some other ones. Then I started taking trips out to Colorado to, go do 14ers and stuff. And I really just started running to, get better at that.
When did you start hiking?
Yeah, like 26, 27. I'm 35 now. So it was, I really was a late bloomer to the hiking community.
What got you out hiking? What was the spark for that first hike?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Is this something you just decided to do? Or did somebody pull you along?
I must have like seen something or just been attracted to mountains at some point. And then I should go check out, a mountain or something. Like, oh, hikes are good. Obviously the Torn. I don't know if you know in Boonton or Denville.
Okay. Over in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I grew up 5 minutes from there. So I'd been there and I'd seen that, but that was really my extent of hiking, like anything with incline or any sort of technicality. And to go from that to, Colorado or 14ers out there or, Breakneck or anything strenuous around here, it was a big jump. There wasn't like a childhood of, we went out and, we're climbing mountains or anything as kids. It was something I really never knew, but I still remember that like first hike I did, it just hooked me.
What did you feel? What was the appeal that you got out of it?
It was just awesome. It's a different world. You kind of leave, we're sitting here in New York City, and I was very familiar with the city. I grew up coming in here like every weekend and everything, but never really saw the mountains. And so the first time I'm just climbing up and up and up, and you're like, when is this going to end? Does this ever end? I think we're almost at the top. I can't tell. And, and then when you're up there and the first time you're kind of, looking out at a view like that, it really kind of, it's very quiet. Like there's, you don't always get it, but there's a moment when you're on a peak or something and you just kind of hear white noise. And I had that, even though it was crowded, I had that feeling and I loved it. Like the view was cool. Going up was crazy. Going down that day was even more insane because of all the ice.
This is Tammany, right?
This is Tammany. Yeah. And it must've been like January or something, cause it was ice. I go out there now and we're on the ice, but I have micro spikes. So it's not that dramatic anymore. Now it's I'm just cruising down. The rocks are covered up. This is, almost like pavement.
I think the first time I had a hike like that in the ice, I didn't even realize that microspikes existed.
No.
I went to Bald Mountain in
Okay.
the Harriman Bear Mountain area.
Yeah, yeah.
No spikes, and just slid up or slid down the whole way for like the whole 5 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those eye-opening experiences. Once I finally put microspikes on, I felt like I had superpowers.
That's what it is. Yeah. And I think that was part of kind of what drew me into it, you know, because it was just so intense. And then I'd go to like Breakneck Ridge, and I never did the main trail, you know, the regular route up to the top. I didn't do that until just a couple of years ago. Like since after I went and started ultra running.
Yeah.
Every time I would go, I would split off at one point. I don't even know how this like started. Like the first time I went there, I don't know if I got lost or I just thought it looked like there was an overlook to see.
Yeah.
And I walked out and there was just a big exposed rock slab. And I was like, okay, like I could go up this, and not a great idea, because if you slip and start sliding, you're just sliding for, you know, probably 100 yards.
Yeah.
But I started like scrambling there and scrambling some other things, and you know, there was just that pull. It was like, okay, Tammany was one thing, Breakneck's a bigger draw. And then I went out to Colorado, I think the next year, and I think I did one 14er that year with my friend, and that was like an adventure. We almost died. We got lost.
What happened there?
So if you've ever been to Colorado, you might have heard of Torrey's Peak and Gray's Peak.
I've heard of those peaks. I have not been there, though.
So it's like a relatively easier climb, but what's cool is you climb up, you know, you just hike up the regular trail. It's like grade 1 or class 1 or class 2. And then you come into a little saddle, and from there you can go left up to Torrey's, I think, or it might be vice versa, and rights to, you know, the other one. But to get up to the one on the right, there was another path that you had to go and do a little bit of a scramble and route finding. And my friend and I were hiking up, and I have jeans on. I don't have a backpack or anything. I have like a little like satchel bag, like gym bag. It's just kind of over my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy going that way, and he looked like he knew what he was doing. But I looked at my friend and I said, let's try this. Let's try this. And so we're following him, we're talking to him, and we got to this one point where it's called the White Wall, and it's just a class 4 20-foot climb.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And so you have to go up this climb, and we don't know what we're doing. Like he was more experienced than me, but I'm in jeans. I didn't even have a belt on.
So you're like relatively early on in your hiking career. I guess even in a year in, that's still early on.
It was it was really like this is more than I can, you know, this is bigger than my, you know, my stomach was bigger than my eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
And we get to the top of that, and we both look at each other, and it was like the scariest thing either of us had done. So we kept going. The guy was disappearing now. He was just doing it. He was like, I'm not responsible for these people in any way. So he just went and did his own thing, and we got lost and couldn't figure out where the route went. And we're on an exposed, you know, maybe like 25-degree scree field. And then at the bottom of like maybe 15 feet below us is just 1,000-foot drop off, like sheer drop off. So we're sitting right on the edge of this beautiful little valley, but we're just sitting there for a moment, and we both didn't want to go back down the way we just came.
Understandable.
Because it was tough coming up, but going down something like that is even more difficult. And kind of scary. And we just were like hanging out there for a minute, like we might die. Like we can't go forwards. We don't want to go back. We're up here, you know, the altitude is killing us. You know, we're both short of breath, but we just ended up going back down the white wall, and it was lucky that we did, because had we kept going, there was one part called the knife edge, and basically you're straddling this thing, you know, like you're riding a horse, and you gotta kind of nudge your way, you know, forwards for a while. And I wouldn't have done that. I would have gotten to there, the peak's right there, but I would have gotten to that thing and been like, fuck this. I'm not a rock climber. I I like scrambling, but I do not like the ropes or anything. It kind of freaks me out.
Same. I'm with you.
Yeah. And so we went back down, and then, you know, we went up the regular way, and he'd been up there before, but we got to the saddle and he was just, not that he was like out of shape, but I was in like very good shape, you know, my whole life, just from lifting weights and, you know, the training for, you know, hockey and lacrosse would always be pretty intense. So I had like legs, I could keep going. And so then I made it up to the top, got to the top, and just, you know, mind blown.
Because you're so much further up there than around here.
Yeah.
What was the biggest difference that you felt being up on such a high elevation peak up there?
Just how much you can see, because it was like a, you know, 360-degree view.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never experienced something like that. And, you know, you could look back to where you came, and it was just this deep, lush valley with, you know, just huge walls on either side of it and just ridge lines. You could see the other mountain. You could see some stuff in the distance. And then if you turned around and looked the other way, it was just white capped, you know, for other 14ers, 13ers, just other mountains forever. Like that's all you could see. And it picked up another level of, you know, oh, this is really cool. So then I got home from that trip, started running a little bit more, nothing crazy, but just really just doing it a couple of times a week.
So what got you running then? Was it just to be a better hiker?
So what got me running is the year that I did that trip, that was in July.
Mm-hmm.
And then in January of that year, I listened to a David Goggins interview on Joe Rogan.
Okay.
And just heard his story or whatever. And he was talking about the 100-mile ultra marathons, like through the mountains and everything. And that was, wow, like, okay, that is something to work towards. Cause I was thinking maybe I was going to do like Ironman triathlons or shorter triathlons, cause my little brother had been doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked fun. But I wasn't really stoked about swimming or sitting on a bike for that long. But, you know, the mountains were what really, you know, did it for me. So when I heard David Goggins kind of describe this thing, I said, oh, that's something I can work towards. So I went out, I listened to that podcast, and I went out for my longest run ever. I think the longest one before this was 5 miles.
I was going to ask you, 5 miles.
So it was 5 miles, and then I ran 11 miles on a flat, like rail trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a watch. I didn't have anything. I just knew the trail was 5.5 miles out. And then if I got to the end of it and turned around, that would be 11 miles. And it was like 6 inches of snow. It was a nice day, and it took me like 3 hours, probably more, to do it. But I finished it. Didn't really run too much after that. Like anything like 11 miles, but now I was like, okay, ultra marathons. I'm going to do the sensible thing. I'm going to do a 5K, a 10K, half. You know, I'm going to build a base, and then eventually I'll do a 50K, and maybe in 10 years I'll do a 100-mile, you know, mountain race.
And what year was this that you were thinking this?
So this was 2019.
Okay, 2019.
Or 2018. It was 2018. So to jump ahead a little bit, I did my first 100-mile mountain race in 2022. So it was a very short window.
Yep. You beat your own expectations on that one.
Yes. And that's one of the things is whenever somebody's like, oh, like I'd like to do an ultra, or like Vanessa, I always tease her to try to get her to do something a little bit longer, because it's, once you go like 50 miles, it sucks. Your body's killing you, but in your mind, okay, what could I do next? Could I hit 62? Could I do 100K? Could I do 70? How much further is 100?
Mm-hmm,
you know, like these questions, these start to get formed, and they're almost insidious. They just are always there. They're always there, you know, getting you to think about it. But the first 5K I was signed up for that year, it got canceled. And I was very upset by that. So I went and signed up for a 55K that was happening that next weekend.
Natural progression, huh?
Yeah. So my whole plan just went right out the window, you know, and I was telling somebody about that the other day, and it was just so funny because I get there and I'm completely out of place. Like I've got a running pack. It's nothing crazy. It's just got a hydration bladder. I don't know what I'm in for. It's like 3 a.m. We're getting on a bus to get bused to the start line. And we all just start running. And after about 6 miles, you know, people were like asking me like, oh, you know, you just start talking to people and, oh, is this your first ultra? And like, oh yeah. And like, oh, like, what have you done before this? Have you done anything? And I'm like, well, I went like for an 11-mile run 5 months ago.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
I'm sure that made a lot of people surprised.
I think they were just like, you know, and it's funny too, because that first one, like I said, for the first 6 miles, I'm running with a group and I'm kind of like tucked into a whole, you know, train of people like right in the middle.
Yeah.
And at one point I had to, you know, take a piss. So I just kind of trailed off, went to the bathroom, came back. I started trying to like sprint to get back up to him, and I caught back up to him. But while I was getting back up to him, I was by myself and it was kind of dark out still. And I'm just like, wow.
That felt good.
This is something different. Yeah, like this is something very, very different. I'm kind of by myself, but I'm still with people.
Where was this, by the way? This 50?
It was near Rutgers.
Okay.
So it was the towpath training run.
Okay.
I think they still do it in June. It's like non-competitive. It's very, very cheap to get into. You just make, I think it's like a $30 donation, and then you can donate more. They raise money for something. I'm not exactly sure. It might be like heart disease or, you know, a cause like that.
We'll figure it out and we'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah, so it's a good one to try out.
Sounds like a good starting point for what you were doing.
A better starting point would have been a 5K,
right.
And then yeah, which I could have done. You could sign up to just start at the 26-mile marker or the half marathon, the 20. So long story short, I finished. It was horrible. I met some people that kind of like helped me finish the last 10 miles that I'd started with, and then caught back, you know, we all kind of came back together.
So it beat you up.
I couldn't walk for like a month and a half properly, couldn't really run, but I signed up for another ultra marathon in July. And it was more my speed, because one thing that I'd seen in this, okay, I want to do a mountain race. Hard Rock, you know, the Hard Rock 100 in Colorado. Now it's one of the top probably 3 100-mile ultra marathons in the world, behind like, or up there with UTMB in Western states. But I was like, all right, I need to start doing vertical gain. I got to start doing races like this. So I signed up for one in South Mountain Reservation that was 1 mile and 300 feet every lap, and you just did as many laps as you could for 6 hours.
Okay. How many did you get in?
So I got 26 or 27 in, and I got 3rd place, which was shocking. I wasn't expecting that. And it was like, wow, okay, this is a different type of, you know, workout. But now I was, how much further can I go?
I'm sure placing in a race like that early on,
it was cool.
Got you thinking.
It was funny too, because I'm competitive, just from growing up playing, you know, these competitive sports, and I wasn't like professional or anything, but I did them at like decently high levels, you know, through high school and college. And I was winning this race for the first 4 hours, and then I took a long break, and then just never, you know, I got passed during that break, and, you know, just couldn't. So I was like, okay, I got 3rd place, but I should have won.
You saw the potential.
Yeah. Well, I was like, all right. And so that was like another little ember that, you know, got thrown on the fire. And after that, I did a 50-miler in October. And so that one, I actually, the first 2, obviously the first one I didn't train for. The second one I trained for a little bit more. But then going into this 50-miler, I was really putting in more miles, and, you know, nothing like I do today, but I would go out and I ran like my own marathon, like the first marathon that I did outside of that first couple of races. You know, so I was doing more serious stuff to try to prepare my body and mind for something like that.
Yeah.
And that 50-mile race was the Batona Trail Race. So it's 55 miles through the Pine Barrens, just point to point. Very flat, very sandy. So I thought, okay, there's no vertical gain. I'm going to, not cruise through this, but I can finish it. And I learned so much that race, because that was my first really kind of, you leave one spot and just go for hours until you finish. And learned so much about salt pills, hydration, what happens if you don't keep up with electrolytes and everything. It's not good.
No, it's not good.
No, your body just starts to shut down and you think you're going to end up in the hospital.
Oh yeah. Been there.
Yeah. But I also learned, like, okay, you can get to this low point where you think you might die. And just by doing a little bit, having some salt tablets, eating the right food, in half an hour, you feel like the lights come back on and, oh wow, I can run. I can actually run again.
Yeah.
And that's like very important for any ultra distance that you're doing. It's, if you get into that low point, nothing lasts forever. You can turn it around and start to come out and, dig yourself out of that hole.
It's super important for everybody to, I think, hit that hole at some point.
Yes.
In whatever element of what they're doing, because then you learn that you can come out of it. You lose that fear and almost like the trepidation of it,
Yeah. Yeah. It's even if you're hiking something like, Devil's Path, or just a long, like a Breakneck 10 or 7.5. That's what it is. You got to do the Breakneck 10.
Breakneck 10 is going to be in a couple of years.
Okay. But anything like that, you learn, there's more. You have more to give. And you might think you're done. And this is like something from David Goggins too, but I think I forget exactly what the number is, but it's like when you think you're done, you're really just at 40%. So you can keep, you can keep going beyond what your perception would be or your expectations would be.
Absolutely.
But I finished that race, got third place. So it was another podium, and I was just happy to finish.
Yeah.
I was like crying with 10 miles left because I knew it was almost over and I was actually going to finish. So the podium was a nice surprise for that one. And then after that, there really weren't, I was signed up to do the Tammany 10 in 2020. That was going to be the first year that I was going to do that.
Which I think is really cool, going from that being your first hike,
yeah,
to then now you're about to do it 10 times.
And that's what was getting in my head. Like I watched a video of them doing the Tammany 10, and I couldn't believe people did it 10 times. And so then I signed up for it, and I was so excited. It was going to be special. I was going to do it, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that got canceled. I was scheduled to do a 100-miler the month after the Tammany 10. So all that got canceled, and I don't even think I raced until January of 2021.
Well, so you got a couple of races under your belt, then everything got shut down for a long time. So you got your first Tammany 10 canceled. What happens in 2021? How do you get back into it?
So when that got canceled, it was 2020, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise because now it was like all there was to do was train. The gyms were shut down. You couldn't really do anything socially. All there was trail running. So that year, I just really started to put in more serious miles. And, at some point there, I think in August, I moved down to North Carolina for, like 6 months, and I was running down there. I did like an unsanctioned 50K or 55K. It wasn't like a race. It was a fun run because we weren't allowed to do races. But I got that one in. I just started training a lot more seriously. And, after that, I moved to Washington for 2021, like in April, and I was there until October.
What brought you to North Carolina and Washington?
So I went to North Carolina for a park ranger law enforcement academy.
Okay.
So I did that. I was down there. Then I got a job out in Washington. Then when the job was over, I moved back to New Jersey.
Gotcha.
And it's, just didn't continue on that path. But I got a couple of races in Washington at the end of that. And I did one like in September. I think they were both in September. I did a 25K mountain race. And I won that, which was sick. It was also one of like the hardest races I've done.
Your first place finish?
That was my first win. Yeah. Or second win. I won a short one that I did before the 50 miler.
Okay.
So, but it was like a short, there was maybe only 17 people that did it. It was 18 miles.
Gotcha.
It wasn't an ultra. This one wasn't an ultra either. But it was like 4,000 or 5,000 feet. You summited 3 massive, mountains in Washington. You just went around this big thing. And that was one of the first races that I like redlined the whole way. And my quads were like seizing up.
I can imagine.
At the end of it. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, like I'm not gonna, I just got to finish. This guy's going to catch me. And I finished and I was like 17 minutes ahead of like the next person that came in.
Oh, that's awesome. Then you killed it then.
But yeah, so, and then after that, I did another, race in Washington. It was like I think 38 miles or something, or it's 36. And I took second in that. So that was really in 2021 where I was like, oh, okay, like all this training I've done, now I'm ready to, it's working.
Yeah,
Whatever I'm doing is working. I'm seeing progress. It's been almost 3 years since that first snowy run that I just went out there and grinded out. Then I moved back to New Jersey though, and I started training a lot more seriously. And that's, in 2022, like I won a race in January, and like reset the course record, won another race in February, was like 7 minutes off the course record. And then I finally did the Tammany 10, won that one. And, was like, that's another record I don't think anyone's going to break. I got the second fastest time, which was awesome. I'm very humbled to be up there with some of the names on there. There's some of my like idols that, that I first started kind of following when I got into it. But that's now I'm thinking, okay, it's time to step it up. Now it's time to do 100. Now it's time to, really, I was getting a little competitive with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're crushing records all over the place.
Yeah.
You're winning races. There's no reason for you not to think that that's the next progression.
Yeah. And it was still kind of surreal, like what can I do more? There's got to be something bigger.
What was your goal now at this point?
So at this point now it was to do a 100 mile mountain race.
Did you have a particular one in mind? Or?
So I did. I was signed up for the Infinitus 100 miler, which is it's in Vermont.
Okay.
And I was signed up for it in May, but Tammany 10 was in March, and then I was doing a 30, like an ultra Spartan race at Mountain Creek in Vernon. Mm-hmm. And the weekend before that race, I like rolled my ankle worse than I'd ever rolled it in my life. And it was just on a chill taper run the weekend before, just to, keep the legs fresh.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. And it was at Mount Tammany.
Of all places.
And it was on like the most perfectly groomed, flat portion of the trail that had happened. Yeah, no rocks or anything. It wasn't horrible though, but like I thought I heard something snap and I had to lay down, and normally you roll an ankle, you just kind of grit your teeth and keep going, and shake it out.
Yep.
But this one hurt, and the whole week it hurt. And this is where inexperience and not really knowing what I'm doing kind of came into play. And like now, like my ankle's taped right now, the same one I rolled. Now I tape it every time I do a technical run.
Yep.
Just to keep it together. There's no pain or anything, but once you roll it, I think it starts to keep going.
More susceptible at that point.
Yeah. And I didn't tape it for the Spartan race, and that thing starts take off up the mountain. I'm winning. I'm building like a little bit of a gap in the first 3 miles. And then I'm on pavement and I started going the wrong way. And somebody was like, oh, no, it's this way. And I like just looked back and rolled it worse than I did the weekend before and was rolling around on the ground. You know, I thought I was going to have to get like carted down the mountain or something. I got back up and I like everyone had passed me by the time I got back up, and I couldn't really run, but I'm like, all right, like I'm not gonna fucking quit this thing right when it started. Like I at least want to try to do some of the obstacles. If I get down the mountain back to my cart, it's too bad I won't continue. And you know, it got a little better. So I could kind of run the uphills and kind of the flats, but not really the downs at all. Like it was in so much pain going downhill. But I kept it together. I got back up into like, you know, like 4th or 5th place, and there's 6 miles left, and then I rolled it again. Same thing. And now I'm in the middle of the woods when this happened. Nobody was around, and I'm just like laying in you know, the leaves. People were coming around me like, are you good? What's up? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then these people, like somebody gave me Advil, somebody gave me some water, and I was like, all right, like, you know, just kept going at that point. Made it down the mountain, finished, did well. I got 4th place, which was cool.
Even with the injury?
With one ankle, yeah. But it was a mountain race, so I was comfortable, and I couldn't run downhill or the flat, so I was fresh for the climbs.
Yep.
And so I was just gunning it up every climb, and it was, if you've ever done one, like a race like that, you're always surrounded by people later in the day, because they have multiple waves and different distances that usually are going at the same time. You're all on the same course, so there was just so much energy to steal.
Oh, for sure.
You know, oh, I got to catch that person. Now I got to catch that person. Now I got to catch that person. Or, you know, it's just infectious energy.
When you hurt your ankle,
yeah.
Did you have doubt enter your mind at that point? More than I guess I'd ever had before?
Yeah. Because that was the first time where I had, since running or doing anything like ultras, that was the first time I had a structural thing that couldn't be fixed by, you know, eating the right foods or doing anything. You just needed time.
Yeah.
And then not to, you know, re-injure it. So that happened like 3 weeks before the 100-miler I was going to do. And I emailed them. I had to back out. I'm like, there's no way. And like while I was sitting in bed one day, like with like my foot up, I had a big boot. I went and got x-rays and everything because the swelling was, I have the pictures of it, but the swelling is insane. Like my toes are purple. The whole ankle is just, you know, I just look like I have a diabetes foot. It's bad. But while I was sitting up, I joined the wait list for Eastern States, the Eastern States 100.
Okay. And
I was like 200 and something on the wait list. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna get into it, but it was like, we'll see what happens. I don't even think I'm gonna be ready for it.
How far ahead was the Eastern States from that moment then?
It was about 3 months.
3 months, okay.
Yeah, it was about 3 months. And then, you know, towards the end of May, I could start like hiking and jogging again. You know, it wasn't as painful. And then in June, I could start running again. And like the first weekend in July, there was another big race that had been on my radar in Washington. It's called the Teanaway Country 100. And it's in central Washington. It's all through the mountains. It's like 31,000 feet of vert.
Oof.
It's up there. Like Hard Rock is 33,000. So this was, you know, okay, Eastern States would be a cool 21,000, you know, foot 100-miler. It's through the Pennsylvania mountains, but this other one, this would be like a crazy one, and I could fly back to Washington and, you know, visit some of my friends and all that I left out there. And so I signed up for that one, bought the plane tickets. Super stoked. This is going to be my first 100 in September. And then literally the next day I got an email that I got into Eastern States.
Okay.
Which is like three or so weeks before this one in Washington that I'd already bought and paid, and scheduled. So at that point, I wasn't not going to do Eastern States.
No, I think you had to do Eastern States.
I thought about it for like a day, and I was like, no, okay, I got to do this one. So that was my the joke was that was going to be my warm up for Tianway. So got into Eastern States, and
so this is like the fruition of the
I don't want to skip ahead too long.
No, yeah, but you're at Eastern States, right? Which is where we're at right now, and that's your first 100-miler, then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is basically the fruition of the goal you originally had. You wanted to do like a 100-mile race, and a couple years later, now you're prepared to do it.
So like January 2018, I got that seed planted, and then August 2022 is when the first one, Mountain 100, happened. Yeah. And then the second one happened 3 weeks later. So it was a quick quick jump.
Definitely a quick jump.
Yeah, and that first one was probably the hardest race I've ever done.
The Eastern States first time?
Yeah. And it's like another thing you learn, just like I learned with some of these other ultras that I'd done. I learned so much, doing that first 100. And I had Jason Friedman was going to pace me at this, or he did pace me from mile like 80 through to the finish.
Okay.
And I took, like, the race started, take off. I'm in third place the whole day. From like mile 5 to like 78, I was in third place. And then the problem was I had been pushing, like really pushing the whole day.
Yeah.
And I got to that point and my body just shut down. Like my IT bands, my ankles, my feet, everything just felt like it was falling apart. And
that'll screw you up mentally too, I'm sure.
It just became such a, like, I was never going to quit, but it became such a sufferfest. And I always joke about it with Jason now when I see him, because I picked him up at the aid station. He was all jacked up. He's excited. He's like, he's like, man, I've never, he'd done the race a couple of times. And it was the middle of the night. And he's like, man, like, I've never gotten to this point in the dark. I'm excited. Like, he's like, all right, let's go. And, we start going, and I can't run anymore, like, at all. I can't run uphill. I can't run downhill. I can't run flats.
Yep.
I don't even think I talked to him for like 2 hours at some point. And it took us 8 hours, I think, to go the last like 23 or 25 miles.
Makes good sense after that you've come that far.
Yeah. Well, and the problem was, though, we got passed by about 11 people. So, and I didn't care. At some point I was like, I don't care.
No.
Like, I just want to finish. So we finished that, but I learned, like, okay, you got to pace it. You got to pace yourself. Because there's a joke in, ultra running where somebody takes off and runs by in the first couple of miles. The joke is, oh, I'm going to see you later. Yeah,
no, that's true though.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the race doesn't start until, mile 50 or mile 60. Yeah.
I mean, I've had people even make that mistake on short hikes with us. They take off a little faster than they should in the beginning, and then at the end they're dying.
Yeah. Give yourself some time. Let the body warm up, and then push it in the middle and towards the end.
So how'd you do in that 100-miler? What place did you come in?
I got, I think, 14th place.
14th. That's still pretty damn good.
It was. Yeah. It was and it's a big race. The Eastern States 100 is probably, I think it's the biggest 100-miler on the East Coast. Yeah. Certainly in terms of difficulty. Now there's one in New Hampshire, the Jigger Johnson 100. That's got like 35,000 or maybe even more feet of climbing.
That's crazy elevation.
Yeah, and it's all through the White Mountains. So it's just gnarly terrain the whole time. That's probably the hardest one on the East Coast now, but I think last year was the first year they did the 100. But it's Eastern States is a big race. There's like 250, plus runners that do it, a high DNF rate. So it was cool to like finish that and then have a very short-lived kind of, enjoyment before I flew to Washington and then did one that was even like 10,000 feet more. But that one was, I was smart. I was like letting people go by me. Oh yeah, go for it. You want to pass? Okay, pass. Like, so on the climbs,
taking it easy, I'd say.
I did. Yeah, I took it easy. I took a lot of photos because it was just unbelievably beautiful. Like some of the stuff that you saw.
Do you think you'd enjoyed it more because you had already completed like 100
Yes.
miles that you pushed on? Yeah.
Yes. So now I'm doing it, trying to be smart, and I was smart. I really didn't start to push until like the 56-mile mark, and then that's like night had fallen. And I came in, you go 40 miles out and then you do like a half marathon lollipop loop and you come back to the same aid station and just go back. And so I got there and my friend was crewing me and he was there and he's like, dude, 6 or 7 people just quit. Like they came back ahead of you and just, they all quit. And I was like, oh. I was like, all right. So I like changed my shirt, put on some night clothes and I was jacked up and I just started.
That's motivation, right?
Yeah. Well, now it's like, oh, I got to go back, but it's pitch black. You're in the middle of Sasquatch country. So, your mind's kind of going. I was by myself at this point, but I just started ripping through the mountains.
Yep.
And, yeah, that one got hard too. But it was much, much better that I paced myself and, could run the last marathon instead of, had to limp. It still sucked and there was, the chafing was epic and some of the other problems that pop up no matter what. And there was a point with like 4 miles left that if I could have quit logistically, I would have.
It's better just to keep going at that point, right?
Well, there was no option. There was like, I can either follow this trail and get back to my car. That's it. Like there wasn't there. I was like in the middle of a pasture. I came out of the woods and the return trip, you do a different final 10 miles than the first 10 miles that you do.
Yeah.
So you come out to this pasture and you look around and there's just like 2,000 foot jagged, walls around you. You're like, fuck.
Yep.
I got to go up that.
And this is after what, like 90 miles or something?
96 miles and 26,000 feet, vert or I don't know, 28,000 maybe. And now you got to go up like one steep, probably the most brutal climb of the day. But that was, I finished that one and a lot of the things have been checked off in my brain now. Like I've done 200-mile races, both mountain races, but one really rugged, Western style mountain race. So that was kind of it. There was a lot of boxes that checked off and, the whole year was nuts from starting out so strong to getting injured to wondering if I'm even going to be able to do, another race this summer, to doing 200 milers in a month. It was kind of like, okay, like I can settle down a little bit, there's got to be a new, like, what's next?
It's like a new approach, right?
What's next?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And now I did it again this year or last year. It was just a lot more fun. Like I was much more conservative in the beginning. I shaved like over an hour off my time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did much better in the race too. I had a lot of fun instead of like stress.
Oh yeah.
And then now I'm a corpse.
I'm sure you put a lot of pressure on yourself before going into that run too.
I did. Yeah.
Because it's your first 100-miler.
Yeah. Well, it was first 100. I wanted to do sub 24 hours. I think I finished in like 26 and a half, which was still, like, I still did very well, even with like the death march for the last marathon. But yeah, there was too much pressure, and not enough planning.
What in your mindset changed?
It's gradual. It's not like an overnight thing like I was talking about. There was like okay, I did Tammany, then I did Breakneck, then I went out to Colorado, then I didn't really do anything for a while. Then I listened to that podcast, then I did the first ultra. you just started like I started to understand, and a lot of it was probably from reading David Goggins's, first book. You're like, oh, okay, like there is more, there is another level to it. And I love the mountains. I love being up there. I love grinding up. And then I always enjoyed sprinting down. I was always pretty good at descending, even when I wasn't a runner or a runner. But it just, all the training and everything and just enjoying it and challenging yourself to get to that next point. It's, the mindset was just, my world was completely open to the outdoors, hiking, ultra running, all that. And I loved it. And every time I like unlocked another peak or I checked off another box in my mind or had another, increase, it's just, oh, what else can I do?
Yep.
And there'll be a day like today, I PR'd, my Mount Tammany loop, and I've done it about 350 times now. There will be, and so now what's changed is instead of, oh, what's next? There's still that. But it's like, there's a lot of gratitude that I'm able to do these things. And because they mean so much to me, and it's such a special, thing, like to be able to do like one of these runs, just walk out of your car and go for it.
Yep.
One day I won't be able to PR, a loop or a run. I won't be able to run 100 miles, but it's not today. And I'm very gracious to be able to do that, right now here. So now when I was younger, it might have been, oh, I'll do that next week, or I'll do it, and there's still some of that. You got to plan it and fit it into your schedule and your life. But
of course,
when you have an opportunity to go do something really, really big or really exciting, if you physically can do it, and the only thing holding you back is, oh, I could do it, next week, or next week might turn into next year.
Yep.
Pretty soon. It might happen like that. You might get an injury. Life might just happen.
The years run out too.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And so that's like the mind. There's no urgency, like there's people much older than me that are still doing 100 milers and 200 milers and PRing and doing epic stuff. So I don't feel like the clock's running out or it's going to end anytime soon, but it's very, very nice to have that gratitude and oh yeah, I could wake up at 4 a.m. and drive, up to the Catskills to do Devil's Path this weekend.
Yep.
Which is something before, really doing this challenge or anything, I'd thought about it and I'd wanted to do it, but I never like hammered down a day to get up there and do it.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, like who can I ask to go do that with me? And it just kind of lets you capitalize on an opportunity that you have and not let that, next week or next year, kind of timeline happen. It's take care of it now, get it done, enjoy it, not just enjoy it when it's over, but enjoy it while you're there.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's something that's changed just from that first 100 to, if I'm doing 100 today or something, it's like, have fun, like have some fun while you're doing it. You're doing this because it's fun. You're hiking this route because it's fun. You're, yeah, it sucks and it might be difficult, but have fun with it. If it's not fun, just stop. No one's forcing you. There's no gun to your head to do this. So I'm very grateful that this is what's fun for me.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what proactive is about, basically seizing the moment while you can.
Yeah.
Because time does run out.
Yeah.
So I always say that.
Yeah, and you get a lot of like big groups to go do some epic stuff that I'm sure nobody would even consider doing. I've heard it with people on the podcast talk about it and everything, and it's like, why not? We're here.
Exactly.
We're physically able to do it. Let's get it done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
let's jump to the next thing.
Okay.
You do 200 milers. Now, where is your mind at, and where are your goals set?
The goals from there were, okay, now I want to win a 100 miler. Which is not a normal. I don't think it's like a normal goal for everyone to have, but where I was, you know, it's like, okay, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, but that would be awesome to try to win one.
Yeah.
Or obviously you want to do as good as you can, but to win one would be pretty cool. And so, and then there's other stuff too, like Devil's Path or other FKTs, kind of get into that world a little bit and just kind of see stuff that I never saw before. But the training, really kind of stayed consistent, kind of picked up a little bit in the winter. And then I won a 100 miler in February.
Right then.
So it was like right away, and it was supposed to be a snowshoe race. But there was no snow.
Where was this at?
Gainesville, New York, I think.
Okay.
I forget the name of the park it was in, but it was a 30-hour snowshoe race, but because there was no snow on the ground, you had to pack your snowshoes the whole time.
Okay.
And they didn't tell us this until we got there, and luckily I had bungee cords and just bungeed them to my running pack and threw the crampon or the micro spikes on. But yeah, that was just, you did a 15K route and it was like, through the mountains and stuff. And you just did it as many times as you could in 30 hours.
Okay.
And there was only 12 people, 15 people that did it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a small race.
Very small race. And you only needed to do 4 loops to be considered a finisher, which was like 36 miles or something.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of people were just kind of going for that, or they were just, going until midnight or 2 a.m. and then they quit.
But you had your eyes set on 100 miles?
I just wanted to keep going.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And it was funny. It's funny because I got to a point where I was loops ahead of the next closest person, like maybe 15 miles ahead.
Yeah. And
the race director was like, "Hey, I don't know how many more you want to do, but because it's not a 100-mile race, but he's like, I don't know how many more you want to do. So if you do another 2 laps and then do the 5K loop that we have set up, we'll give you a buckle." I was like, I guess I want that.
Yeah.
I was kind of like angry because I was ready to just like mail it in.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was tired. I was winning. I was like, it's not a 100-mile race. It can be over.
Yep.
And so I had like a pity party for about 5 minutes and drank a Red Bull and took some Advil, ate a cookie, and just went out and I think I ran the second fastest loop of the day on that one.
Yep.
Because I knew if I could get through that one, I have more than enough time to finish, one more full and then just limp through the 5K and it'll be done.
Yep.
But yeah, that one got done, and yeah, last year I went a little crazy with the racing.
2023.
Yeah, because I did that, in February. Then in March I did the Tammany 10 again.
First place win, right?
The second one, yeah. So that was like a weather-wise awful, pretty awful.
It's kind of been the story about a lot of your runs, I think.
Yes.
The weather doesn't always cooperate with you.
Especially last year, man.
Oh, yeah.
Because and then I did like a 24-hour obstacle course race in Rhode Island in April, and I won that one too. Then May I did the Breakneck Marathon.
Now that's actually
didn't win that one.
Breakneck Marathon's where I kind of became aware of who you were.
Yeah,
a little more.
Yeah.
I had seen your name on Strava and things like that, but when you started training with Vanessa, I think
we went. Yeah, we went. I joined her for a couple of she had gone to a group run, so she had the route saved.
Yep.
I went up there with her and we just did the front half and the back half on separate days. So yeah, that was probably like April.
Yeah, about that.
Or
right?
March leading up to it. Yeah.
That's when I started to really look at your Strava, and I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? In a good way, you know?
Yeah. These numbers can't be real.
That's what I was saying.
We need an audit.
But then I noticed a trend in what you were doing, and I'm like, this guy's an animal.
Like, oh, okay. It's an average day.
That's right. That's right. Vert pig, right?
I started calling people vert pigs. I said, we're all vert pigs.
Yep.
We got a lot of vert pigs out here, on the mountain today. I love to see all you vert pigs crushing it. And then my one friend Dave might have started calling me the vert pig, and I wasn't calling myself it. I still don't really do it, but it's just caught on, and now
it's caught on,
and now I have become the vert pig.
It's like if they were making T-shirts or something, you'd be vert pig shirts,
Yeah, like a little. I don't know what it could be.
There's a lot of opportunity there.
A little pig climbing a mountain. Maybe like a thermometer with a pig's face on it.
I like that.
And like it's rising up with the feet. You could have feed the pig on the back.
These are all good ideas.
Yeah, great. They're all great ideas to just go out and smash as much vertical gain as you can.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, you do a lot of angry walking, as somebody that I was talking to this weekend said.
Angry walking.
Death march is like the common phrase when you're just like what I was doing at Eastern States with Jason. I was death marching, but she calls it angry marching or angry walking.
I totally get what she's talking about.
I get it too. I said that's pretty accurate.
There are certain hikes that I even do, obviously a lot shorter than yours, but some people, they get to the death march stage.
Yeah, they're angry.
Nobody's talking. Nobody's like laughing. It's just walking.
This just sucks. Stop. No.
Because you know that at the end of the death march is going to be like the best feeling ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you finish that death march, it becomes
that's what happens. You death march up the mountain, and then you flow, and run down it.
Yep.
And then you get right back into the death march. I've gotten better at trying to run more instead of just death march the climbs. Yeah, I think you go into a training hole if you do too much death marching.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Mentally, it's not the best thing.
Yeah. And so the vert pig was, I guess, born.
Yeah, it stuck with you.
Yes, it has.
Stick in my mind. So Breakneck Marathon.
Yeah.
That was where you say, so you were still going crazy last year.
Yes.
The Breakneck Marathon, how'd that go for you?
That went well. That was I had no illusions of winning or, even placing anywhere near the top 10.
Is that because so many runners from all over the place come for that one?
It's like a national championship race. So the top 2 people that win that race or won that race last year, I don't know, I think it just might be the half marathon this year, but last year it was a twofer. So the 2 first place male and female for the marathon and the half marathon both got automatic bids or tickets to enter the world championship in Austria for the 42K. So you had people from all over the US, as far as Alaska, people came in for it. Europeans, people from South America, Canadian, there were so many countries and nationalities and states represented there. And there might've been like 500 and something people doing it.
That's awesome.
I don't even remember. I think I was like 34th or something.
Which is still a great number.
It was, yeah. And it was just cool to see how much faster some of the elite, runners were. And it's just a big draw. We were camping out the night before and you're just having like a fun hangout. You have people drinking, smoking weed and, not doing anything, just eating food and everyone's just hanging out kind of, until all hours of the night and then trying to go to sleep and wake up and just get it done.
Yep.
But that was a lot of fun. I am upset I'm not going to do it again this year, but that's going to be I still might go out there and just hang out. Yeah.
Why are you sitting it out this year?
Like I was saying, I raced a lot last year, and just super burnt out by June. Yeah, just really burnt out by June. And no injuries or anything, but you start to enter like an area where you race and you take a week or so to taper and kind of rest before the race, and then you got to recover for the week after, and you're trying to train again. And,
Yep.
you know, you might only get 1 week of training in before you got to start a taper again for another race. And it just took a lot out of me. So I'm trying to focus a little bit less on racing as much, you know, doing a few races that I like.
Yep.
and really do more, you know, kind of adventure stuff like Devil's Path or the Beacon Bully or Breakneck, 7.5, you know, it's a couple other things I'd like to try to check off this year, you know, just through the training and kind of save something to maybe do some races in the fall that I normally wouldn't have the legs for, or just mentally just be completely burnt out, you know, to do. Stuff like the Hudson Highlands, you know, Hundo, epic day for a lot of reasons.
And that was only how many months after the Breakneck Marathon? That was October. October, right?
Yeah. So that was like 6 or so, 5 months afterwards. I did Eastern States again over that summer. I did a couple other races over the summer.
Yeah, you did Manitou's Revenge too, right?
Yes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that one again this year.
That's a big one.
That's got to be the hardest 50-mile race in the world.
Was that one where the weather didn't cooperate with you?
It rained all day.
It rained all day.
It
on
was
top of being a hard one.
It was, and it's in the Catskills, so you do like the escarpment trail. Then you do some other trails. Then you hit Devil's Path for 8 miles. I don't know what other trails you hit after that, but you eventually end up back in Phoenicia, and you're just road running for like a mile, just trying to just keep it going to get to it. And other than that road mile, it's just rocks and slabs, and you're climbing up, you know, climbing down, and it was wet. It rained the whole time. Yeah.
When you were doing that was in my mind, because I know
the
Devil's Path really well.
Yeah.
And just thinking about trying to run that in the rain with like slick rocks and all that, it was hard to wrap my head around.
Yeah. It was a mess. And it was the first time I was on Devil's Path.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right.
It was like, and I was with my one friend, Jay Lemos, while we were hitting it. And he'd done the race a few times. He'd been on Devil's Path plenty of times. And he was excited for it because it gave him a chance to stop running. I was like, can we just keep
moving?
Can we just keep running? Like, I'm flowing right now. I could rest later, but yeah. And I was not happy with it.
I could imagine.
Yeah. Like shimmying down, you know, refrigerator sized rocks and then having to jump like 5 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and just sitting there for a moment before you do it, wondering if this is it, if I can even jump and land, you know, safely. But that was part of the adventure. That's what makes it so fun. So hopefully it won't rain this year, but if it doesn't rain, it's going to be brutally hot.
Probably.
Yeah, which won't be much better.
No, it's like one or the other.
Yeah.
I guess you get to see how different it is if it's just brutally hot then.
Apparently that'll probably be worse for me.
Are you worse off in the heat or better off in the heat? You're worse off in the heat?
I like the cold.
Like the cold?
I like it to be a little cold. I don't think anyone's perfect in the heat and humidity of June, you know, July. But if I could choose, I'd rather have like a little bit of rain, just to keep everything cooled down.
So this is now, you're doing all of these organized races and runs and all that. And I do want to talk now about the Hudson Highlands Hell No Hundo. I
think it's the Hudson Highlands Hell No Hellhole Hundo.
That's it. I missed Hellhole.
Yeah, I screwed up too.
The H.
Something. Yeah. There's one N in there.
One N in there.
Yeah, there's only 3 people that have done it, and we still screw it up. I think every other time.
I think I probably do every time I try to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's 100 miles. From where does it start now? It starts
at Bear Mountain.
It ends at Bear Mountain, right? But you have to go all throughout the Hudson Highlands.
Yeah. I think there's like 18 mountains that you summit, and it starts at Bear Mountain, and you run past Hessian Lake, and then you go over the bridge. You go past Anthony's Nose, then you backtrack to Anthony's Nose, then you go through Fonstock, and then you run a hardy amount of pavement from there to get to Cold Springs, and then you go up Bull Hill through, I forget exactly how you went, but you come out, and then so you come out of the Bull Hill route like on the descent, and you go under the tunnel, then you go up Breakneck Ridge, then you go all the way back, and you eventually end up at the tower.
Yeah,
then you keep
Beacon.
Then you keep going down, away from the tower, and you loop back around, and come out down in the Beacon lot, and that's like mile 43. And then you got to run from there like 11 miles over the Beacon bridge, and then you run through. So it's not a great town, and it's even worse to run through because there's no sidewalks or anything. Not really, but you run from there all the way over to Storm King, and then you go up Storm King, you go around North Point, then you come out and you go through the Black Rock Forest.
That's right.
And that was all like you go around West Point, and the Black Rock Forest is a nightmare. I don't think anyone's run through there since the last time somebody attempted the course. And that just took forever.
I could imagine.
Yeah. And it was raining pretty much the whole day when I did this.
I remember.
Yeah. But you come out of there, and you're at a place called Turkey Hill parking area. I think that's like mile 80 or something.
Yep.
And it should be a short run from there up to Poptorn, and then over to Bear Mountain where you finish. But that bridge from Poptorn to, like connecting from the Bear Mountain side of the river over to Poptorn, it got washed out.
Oh yeah,
it's just gone. Yeah. And so you have to run like an extra 3 miles, up and crossing over like the highway, and then coming back. Then you go up Poptorn, and then come back, down up to Hessian Lake, run past Hessian Lake, and then I had to run the road pretty much to the top of Bear Mountain, and then just turn around and come back because all those trails are still closed.
Yeah, they're all washed out.
Yeah,
that's a route created by Kim Lewinsky from Stock Squad Trail Runners.
Yeah, she just kind of threw it together.
But it's a hell of a route.
It's crazy. I don't know if many people will try it. And like some people that I've talked to that might have done it, I don't know if there's a lot of appetite for it because there is a lot of pavement.
Yeah.
There was more than I expected. I knew there was going to be some, but there was a lot more than I expected. But that was part of what made it so cool is it actually was an adventure. Like you'd do one section, then you had to like run through towns and roads and everything and get to another set of mountains and, then do the same thing. And what was so special about it is it's a big, kind of like oval or circle. So you can see like 50 plus miles of where you're going or where you've come from at certain points in the day. And it's mind blowing, to kind of be able to look back and say, wow, I was over there 11 hours ago, or, oh, I'm going over there in like 30 miles. Yeah.
What's the elevation on that whole route? It's got to be a lot.
It wasn't as much as I thought. I think it was like 26. I'm not sure exactly, 26. But it was less than I thought it was, and I was kind of upset. But it was
vert pig.
But yeah, I wanted 30. I wanted an Everest, but we didn't get it. But what makes it so difficult, so much of it is flat pavement where you're not climbing too much. So all that vert is just crammed in to stuff like Breakneck,
Yeah.
or Pop Torn, where you're literally climbing, with ropes in some spots up to get to the top of the mountain.
Yep.
So that was like a lot of those climbs were just short, punchy, just grind it out, and it was wet. So it was not ideal. But that was a wild experience for me. That was like another kind of, progression in not just running, but like life. Since I had to organize, it's not one that I can just park my car at and, come back to my car every few hours.
Oh yeah.
I'm not seeing my car again for 97 miles or 94 miles. Yeah. So I had started at like the end of August, just reaching out to a bunch of people and I thought maybe I'd get like 3 or 4 people that would help out, and like maybe I could like really convince somebody to stay out there and crew me and just meet me at a couple of spots.
Yeah.
But I had maybe at the end of the day, like 15 or 18 people that showed up to help me at certain points.
Yeah.
I wasn't crew. I wasn't alone at any part of the race. So it was kind of upsetting when I realized that, because I wanted some solo time.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good to have, somebody with me, or 2 to 5 people at some points, with me doing certain sections of it. I couldn't believe it. Like, so many people were, anything you need. Okay, I'll be there at midnight. I'll see you there. We'll run for 7 hours through the woods, and I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to get home. Yep. Don't worry about it. But it was a lot of organization, but it was also, very good for motivating me to keep going, because it's like I didn't want to stop to let these people down. But then it was also like, oh, I only have like a few more miles before I meet so-and-so.
Yep.
And now I get to hang out with them for another, few hours.
It's a little boost every now and then.
Yeah. It was a lot of like consecutive medium to long runs that I did. Just a lot of, weekend hangouts that we got to do in like, one big 30-hour rip.
Yeah. And what inspired you to do that route?
Kim. Kim. So I did one of her races in 2018. It was that second one that I did after the Rutgers, towpath. It was the one with the vert.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time I saw, like, I didn't meet Kim then, but like the first time I was aware of Sasquatch and her. And I've done some of her races since then, and I just see her. She doesn't live too far from where I do. So I'll see her, running sometimes out, over the spring and the summer. And she's the stuff that she does is pretty inspiring. Like, she did the long path FKT this year.
Yep. That was right before you did the Hundo, right? Or near it.
Yeah, it was I forget exactly when she did it. I think she did it in July.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she did it in July apparently there's a documentary coming out that I can't wait to see on it that kind of chronicles that whole thing. But she's just somebody I've kind of become, friendly with. And she was always like, oh, so when are you doing the Hundo? Like, the hell no. Like, when's it going to happen? And, she's so positive and like infectiously positive that I was like, oh, I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
I'm
Planted the seed.
Yeah. And then, I got to the end of the summer in 2023, and I just thought, like, okay, like maybe October. Mm-hmm. Like, I could probably do this in October. And that's when I wasn't sure if that was enough time to plan it or not. And it just kind of all came together. And it's still pretty crazy to just see the community of ultra running or trail running, kind of come together and have, like, some of these people had awful times out there. Like, I know they did.
Yes.
But they were thanking me afterwards for bringing them out to experience this awful thing. But that's what that's like something like hiking, extreme routes, or running these extreme distances. It's fucking terrible sometimes when you're doing it.
Yep.
But it's that type 2 fun where, okay, it kind of sucks while it's happening, but it's great for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, like I would do the same. Like, I paced a couple of people a little bit before that, all night doing the Wild Goose 100 during the tropical storm in September.
Yeah.
And sucked. The whole thing sucked while I was doing it. But these guys were doing like 100 miles, and I was just there sort of like the middle end, or like, you know, like miles 70 to 90. I think I stuck it out with them.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was truly awful. Like, I didn't sleep all night. I was waiting there from like 5 a.m. or not 5 a.m., but like 5 p.m. to, you know, maybe 1 in the morning. And then I was up with them for like another 6 hours, just crawling along. Yeah. And it's not that they were, you know, they were tired.
Yeah,
and
they're 70 miles in.
And it's pouring rain, and it's just ankle deep peanut butter mud. It was terrible.
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
But I see the appeal.
But no, yeah. If you're looking for fun, find some mud next time it's raining. Don't go to bed. Don't get cozy. Just get out there and get lost.
But there is something when you have a day like that, and you don't get enough sleep, and you're like going through these terrible conditions. By the end of it, it's almost like all those things make the finish better.
Yeah.
Because you could look at it and be like, well, I did that all despite this, or that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it gives me a boost when I get to the end of some of the longer hikes. Like
it's like what we were talking about before. You know, you can do it. Why wait?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Okay. You're never going to be more ready than you are right now to do something. But yeah, that was one of like the best days of my life.
The hell no.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of that day for you?
The Black Rock Forest.
Black Rock Forest.
Yeah.
That is your first time in Black Rock Forest, right?
Yes, it'll be my last time. It'll be my last time there.
That park is an acquired taste. I can imagine for you running in the dark after already have gone, 70 plus miles to get over there, that it probably wasn't the best experience.
Well, the problem, it wasn't that I was tired. The problem was, you're following the route on your GPS, and you're like, I had this joke with Kim about it. Your GPS, you're following trails that aren't there or haven't been used forever.
Yeah.
And there's like a little blaze on a tree somewhere that you might be able to see. You're trying to follow these trails that aren't there. They don't make any sense in the direction that they're going. And your GPS, if you're pulling out your phone to try to watch it, it looks like it's stopped, or it's actually going backwards in some cases.
Yeah.
So originally I thought it was going to take maybe 5 hours to go. It was like 17 miles and almost 5,000 feet of gain. And by the end of it, it was over 20 miles, almost 6,000 feet of gain, and 7 hours. I have no idea where the extra miles came from. Like, we didn't get that lost.
Yeah. It's like a Twilight Zone situation.
But that's what was so awful about it. You're like, okay, we should have 3 miles left. And it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it just never ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was definitely the worst. And I was just in death march mode. I wasn't complaining. I wasn't, butthurt. I was grinding, and, I told the 2 guys I were with were like the 2 toughest guys I had out there running with me. So I was pretty happy that, I had these 2 strong runners to kind of lead the way.
Yeah.
And, keep it together. And I was just like, at some points, I just need to sit down. And I just sat on this log, like the most uncomfortable. I could have slept there, but it was the most uncomfortable seat I've ever found, and just ate all the food that I had in my pack. Like, I just like sat there and just had a feast because it was there's no rush.
Yeah,
this isn't we're not gonna sprint down the hill and be in the parking lot. But it was also night, and it's funny because right when we got out of there, the sun came up, and being in that like nothing lasts forever, the good and the bad. It's so funny, like coming out of the forest to see daylight is, you've found like $1 million. And it's okay, I'm exhausted, but let me sit down here. I'm going to change socks, get some dry feet going, and let's run.
Yep.
We're close. Now I can see Bear Mountain, I'm still not going to be done for 4 hours, but I can see the finish,
yep.
Where I got to climb up to and come down from. So yeah.
I guess figuratively and literally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is always a nice thing there.
Yeah, that was, and it stopped raining then too, which was good.
So that was,
you can't beat that.
No, you can't. You really can't.
Sunshine and
new clothes, no more rain.
Yeah.
You got the light again, and you're near the end.
Yeah.
And you're already like 90% into your 100-mile day. You're good.
Yeah. You perk up pretty quick.
I'm sure. How'd you feel at the end of that?
Very satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unsure of what to do. Like, it's over. Do I go home now? I want to hang out with everybody though. And
I should be dead.
Yeah. Well, you're like perked up and people are there and everyone's excited. And, there were some people that had came out to see it. So I didn't know what to do, and I was talking to them, and at some point I just laid down on the ground and kept talking to them from the pavement. It's like, I just want to lay down. I don't want to stop, but
yeah. You deserve that at that point.
Yeah. And then we're sitting at a picnic table. I was drinking some like ice cold Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and at one point just like put my head down to sleep. Like 2 cups of coffee in, and
yep.
I'm just gonna lay down here.
How many hours from the start of that day to the finish, or the start of that route to the finish, was it?
It was like 30. It was a little over 30.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it would be 27 hours at the most. So it was, I think, just like having the phone out and having to stay on route and continuously check and check and check.
That makes a huge difference in the time.
Yeah, I think it just ate it up a little bit. But yeah, just literally one of the coolest days of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the top 5 for sure.
So that was back in October.
Yeah.
Since then, is there anything big that you feel like you've done? I know you've done a couple of big challenges from the Active Challenge.
Mm.
Like you were one of the only three of us to do Breakneck 7.5. You did Winaki Derby.
Yep.
I know you did the Devil's Path, which was cool. How was the Devil's Path for you?
Pretty phenomenal.
You absolutely crushed the Devil's Path.
Yeah.
Which I knew you would.
We took, I'd like to go back and shave like 2 hours off.
I believe you totally.
Because it was more of a, there was so much ice.
There was a lot of ice. Yeah. I know that.
But it was awesome. It was one of those like adventure, okay, this is going to be a grind, kind of days. But yeah, it was such an experience. Like, I'm excited to go back and maybe even do like an out and back, which I feel like I have to do just because.
That's my next big goal for myself, actually.
Okay.
Is the out and back.
You got it.
Devil's Path. I'm pretty sure I got it.
Easy stuff. It's party pace the whole time.
That's right. Yeah. That's how it should be.
It's easy. Enjoy the views. Bring plenty of food.
Yep.
Just have a plan. Have a car at Tombstone.
Yep.
And you'll be good.
Get some people around me like you did for the Hell No Hundo.
Yeah.
And then this actually goes back to what we were talking about before. Don't start out rushing. Because if you're going to do that one, you should definitely just take a nice, easy pace back and forth.
Not on that. Yeah.
No, definitely not on that. So we're in 2024 now.
Yeah.
What do you got planned for this year?
A couple races. The Tammany 10 I'm going to do again in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Manitou's Revenge I'm going to do again this year.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to do this 100K by me in, I forget the name, Alamucci State Park.
Okay.
So my friends have a company called TPK Trails.
Okay.
And they put on a lot of savage trail races. And they started this one last year, and so I want to do that 100K in August. I'm trying to plan out a trip to do the Ouray 100
Where's that at?
That's in Colorado.
Colorado. Okay.
So that's the biggest vert 100 or maybe biggest vert race that there is.
How much you getting that?
It's like 42,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
Yeah. It's higher than the Hard Rock. It's higher than any of the ones I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I did like a Mount Beacon 24-hour challenge last month.
I was going to ask you about
January. Yeah, we breezed right over it. That's a really dumb idea that some people get together and do every year.
Yep.
It's not a race, but you basically park at the bottom of Mount Beacon. You stay there for a day and you just go up a mile to the wheelhouse.
Up and down the casino trail, right?
Yep. You check out the view and then you come around the wheelhouse and go right back down. And you just do that for as much as you can.
And you did it how many? 60-something times?
I did it 33 times.
33 times.
So I got like 66 and change for miles and like 34K, which was a PR for 24 hours and overall vert. And it hurt. My feet were mangled.
Yeah. Oh man. Cause even just one climb up there can beat you up sometimes. So
it was just the coming down, like the steep descent, all the gravity just pulling the shoe onto the top of my foot. It felt like I just, somebody hit me with like a knife, like over the tops of all my toes at one point.
I can't even imagine.
But yeah, so 42K, it's stretched out though.
Yeah.
It's way there's way less steep descending, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that would be sick. And we were talking a little bit before we started coming back on. I'd like to do the Appalachian Trail, like PA to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And just more kind of solo adventure stuff, less racing. Still love to race and be competitive with that, but I got into it last year and the last couple of years really, and I think part of that was being so new to it and then having COVID kind of shut everything down for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I think I just went really hard into it coming out of that 18-month training hole basically that I was in, and it was just fun to be able to race and do well and, push limits and everything. But yeah, now after doing something like the Hudson Highlands where it wasn't more or less than 100-mile race, I'm not going to take anything away from that, but it was different, and I think more impactful. I can't just sign up for that again in October and do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces to put together for something like that. So it'd be special to do, more stuff in that kind of realm.
Yeah. How do you feel like you're approaching the races differently now from years prior? Because now you're in a whole different place.
Yeah.
You've completed a lot of them. You've done very well. You've done these solo adventures. So now when you hit these 100-mile races, how do you feel like you may be approaching it differently?
Having goals, like different goals, like your A goal, your B goal, and your C goal. And A goal might be win the race.
Yeah.
It might be place top 5, whatever. B goal is I did this backwards. The A goal should be very manageable. It should be, like for Eastern States this year, I wanted to break 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care about placement or anything like that. You really shouldn't have a placement idea, but your A goal, for me now is a time limit. Like I want to hit this time. Is that doable for me? Is it going to be good enough to win or place, X amount of spots from the top? Who cares? That's my goal. That's where I want to be. So, and then the B goal would be, okay, maybe 26 hours. C goal might be just to finish, because who knows, something might happen. Your A goal might be way off and okay, now we're going to reset and try to hit something like that. But yeah, that I'm saying is the big difference for me trying to race, to win or, place really well. Because that's what gets you in trouble going out too hard.
Yeah.
And blowing up and just trying to fight to finish. Yeah. So that A goal of a time limit, and it could be for like a long hike or anything like that. It's like, okay, to get to that goal, where do I got to be 20% of the way through? Where do I got to be halfway through? What should, every 3 hours, how long should I be going? And that helped. Like that helped me at Eastern States, just having those internal time splits, because I could, look at my watch and say, okay, I went a little too fast the last half hour, or, okay, I got to pick it up a little bit here to stay on pace. But
yeah,
it really helped me stay in that middle ground where I wasn't, going a little too hard and, burning out for a later point. But I think it takes a lot of pressure off you too, where you don't have to think, oh, these guys are bombing this downhill, okay. Or they're flying up you on the first big climb of the race. It's like, all right,
yeah,
go for it, and then at some point you can start to, and then it's like what I did with that one. At some point I just started to make a move, and now they're all tired from pushing. I'm having a blast. I'm eating plenty of food. I'm joking around with people. I'm still enjoying it. But now it's like, okay, now I can push for the next hour and know it's not going to be a mistake.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's a big step up from where I was, at that first Eastern States run, where I just buried myself mentally and physically for the first, 80 miles.
Yeah. Do you feel like now mentally you hit less obstacles because of all that you've done?
Yeah,
definitely. Right? Confidence has been definitely built up nicely.
It's just experience, and like I was just saying, you're not putting that pressure on yourself. This is fun. I'm out here because it's fun. So let me make it fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to. I didn't do this to stress out, and constantly worry about how much longer I got to go, or how much faster I got to go, or if somebody's going to catch me. It's like, no, just enjoy the moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's good advice for anybody, really.
Yeah.
Depending on, even if they wanted to go from 1 to 10 miles or from 20 to 40, just to make it fun. Because you're not the first person to say that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, training. It's not always fun. Sometimes you're just getting through the run and trying to push and until it's over. But yeah, for any, like a long day that you're out in the mountains playing, have fun with it. That's what I was like doing today on the one lap. I just started having fun with it.
Yeah.
And yelling at people that I was coming up on way too quickly. Trying not to fall and trying to see through the tears in my eyes that just form.
Oh yeah, the wind
because
does that.
The wind.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, those are rocks. Those are more rocks. They're all rocks.
Yep.
It's just pray my feet land on the right part of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that's fun.
Aside from doing the runs and the hikes that you do, what else do you do to train for your runs and your hikes?
I lift weights pretty regularly. So a lot of squats, deadlifts, every upper body, every lower body, like all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the heavy, squats and deadlifts and lunges, all that stuff that you can do to really build, leg strength. I think it helps recovery big time. It helps me like not get little injuries that pop up, for a lot of people, because my back is stronger just from putting it under that stress every week. And same thing after you do a long run, your body's kind of used to being fatigued and kind of, broken down.
Yeah.
I think it just makes it much better at repairing itself, and then obviously you want to eat, enough protein every day,
I mean, a lot of your training runs I've noticed, most people do shorter runs throughout the weeks and months, and then hit these big events that they'll do. But I noticed that your routine runs are mostly between like 10 and 15 miles.
Yeah.
Routinely.
Yeah. And
I'm always impressed by that because your training runs are longer than some people's half marathons that they're training for. You know what
That's true. Yeah. That's just, you know, what are you training for?
Yep.
You know, if you're training to run 100 miles or, you know, do something where you're gonna be working, you know, for that long, I think kind of the limit to like an average run is like 2 hours. You know, if you're doing a long run, that's 4 to 6 hours, that's great. But I think, you know, those medium runs that you're building up, I think that 2 hour mark, whether it's on the road or anything else, that's where you get like the most gains from it.
Yep.
But yeah, like if I was training for a marathon, or a half marathon even, I wouldn't be doing, you know, 14, 15, you know, 10 or 10 mile runs in the middle of the week on the road.
Yeah.
It'd be more, okay, I'm doing a 10K or 8 miles, but I'm not looking for any vert and I'm just hammering, you know, the paces. And it's just all about, you know, what you're training for. And for, you know, like hundreds or mountain races, okay, I'm going to go run, you know, 15 to 30 miles on Saturday and going to try to do 15 or so miles on Sunday too.
Yeah.
Just so your body gets used to operating on, you know, tired and beat up legs.
That was something actually that I think you shared with Vanessa about training on tired legs.
Yeah.
To strengthen your legs.
Yeah. And it's that's like ultra training 101. Back-to-back long runs. That's you know, and people get super creative with it. I know I have. You know, where like I've done a hard race on a Saturday and then done a group run with a bunch of people, you know, on Sunday.
Yeah.
Or, you know, just different types of challenges that you can get into. What I wouldn't do is run for a day and then go do like another long run after that. But yeah, that makes a big difference because you know, you can only simulate that mile, that like last 40% of a race, you know, feeling, without doing it in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's another one I'll like lift, you know, like I'll lift weights and then I'll hit the treadmill or the trail right afterwards.
Yep.
Or kind of vice versa. And same thing, it's you're training on tired legs. So you're just getting that extra little bit of you know, juice and kind of bulletproofing your mental game too.
I was gonna say, that builds up your mental game for sure.
Yeah, it definitely sucks.
I feel like you could put aside some of the little pains that you feel.
Yeah. And they go away.
They do go away.
They usually go away.
Is that, and one of the first podcasts we did with Joel, my dentist, who's in his 60s, he's been running his whole life. And he said something about that. Like when you start running, usually for the first like half hour to an hour, you might be like, oh, my knee, my ankle. But at a certain point, it all just drops off. It goes away.
It's funny you say that because I'd say that all the time.
Me too.
I say like 20, 30 minutes and then, or an hour, it starts to feel better. And I'll tell people this that say, oh, I want to start running. I say, yeah, the first 30 minutes are going to suck, but the next 2 hours feel great. And they're like, well, I'm going to run for 20 minutes. I say, well, it's going to suck.
It seems like backwards advice when you're like, no,
it does.
Going. Like, it almost sounds like,
Trust me. It gets so much better.
Totally does. I even say that to myself sometimes now going in. Like if I do feel an ankle pain or something, it's like I already know that soon enough I'm not going to feel that. You know, it's just going to be gone.
It's wild. I guess your body warms up or
the chemicals that get made up.
Your brain's like, he's not stopping. They're not stopping. We got to figure out a way to make this manageable. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And now your routine is really good for the proactive challenge because I've noticed that you're generally doing your regular business and what you're going to normally do. And usually you knock off most of the challenges in the month because you're hitting high mileage or a certain vert.
Yes.
And you do that very often.
Yeah.
So you're definitely excelling in the challenge. I remember seeing your Strava, and I had reached out to you months ago with a few other people, because when I set this challenge up
over the summer.
Yeah, it was about over the summer. I felt like I needed to recruit some people that were really just killing.
I was happy to do it.
Absolutely. I know this is a little different than what you're used to doing. This is a longer competition.
It is. I like it.
Yeah. And you're excelling at it. Yeah. Do you have anything that you want to say about how that's working out for you?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning I was accidentally checking off a lot of things. I think my personal favorite was the Eastern States 100. Checked off like a 2,500 vert check mark. So and I don't. Yeah, I'm not like, oh, I should get more points. I don't care. I kind of like that where it's really challenging. Like you gotta, even if you're somebody like myself and I'm checking off like the challenges every, some of them just by doing them, business as usual.
Yep.
I still have to, they're weighted in a way where somebody who's just getting out there for, a day on the weekend still has, a fight. Like they might have one big weekend where they gotta knock out something that's more than they would like really want to, do casually. Or regularly.
Yep.
They can still remain like right in there. And it's also gotten me like some of them with them being so specific. Now I got to look at going and doing things that I wouldn't ever have done. Like one of my favorite ones that I did was the pop torn.
Oh yeah.
The pop torn was awesome. What was it, like 13?
It's pop sun. So you're supposed to do
during the daylight.
Yep, up and down.
I conform to the daylight.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
From sunrise to sunset. So I think I put it at 13 rounds.
Yeah.
So you have to do 13 climbs up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were the only I think
that was awesome.
One of the only ones that did it for the challenges this year.
I can see why. My hands got destroyed by the end of it.
Oh yeah.
Just
a lot of scrambling.
My delicate fingers. No, but they like were hurting by the end of it climbing up.
Yeah.
But it's such a steep descent that I was, not struggling through it, but just kind of getting through it. And then halfway, through the climbs, I just started flying down this descent.
Oh yeah.
And it's and I got like faster and faster and faster with it. And I think it helped build, some more descending speed.
Yep.
That I, normally, I'm climbing and descending, but it's a lot on the same trails. And, I'm always seeing them. That was something I would have never done, had I not been in this challenge.
Yep.
I would have never done that. Like, would I have done Devil's Path? Sure.
Yep.
But stuff like the patch hikes, Northern Green, I probably would have never explored like that.
Yep.
Just because it's like we were saying before, it's such, a spider's web of trails. And I got lost a couple of times and like, it sucked a couple of times because I would be tearing down a downhill thinking I'm on the same color trail.
Yeah.
And then I pull out my phone and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to turn onto a different trail at the top of that.
Yep.
Okay. And so then I'm just, marching back up the climb to go the right way.
Yeah.
But like these things, they're cool challenges that I would never, I really wouldn't have done.
I think that's the cool thing is like, because you have, full capability, but you might not have traveled to some of these places.
No.
And some other people in this challenge go to these places, but don't always push themselves to a certain level.
Yeah.
And so the challenge allows people to kind of adjust what they would usually do, which I find really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like weighted pretty well too, where, I'll max out at 13 pop torns or I'll do the full Northern Green, tour. And it's like, somebody does a little bit less, it's not that much of an advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't really run away with it, in a month. But it's different.
It's different.
It's different, and it's It's just seemingly never ending, but it's almost over.
It's never. It is almost over.
I know.
The next one will start right up afterwards.
I started looking at the challenges for this month and and I'm like, oh man, there's only three months left.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like when I set that up, it felt like it was going to be forever away.
It did,
and it's almost already here.
I know, and I'm glad I can still check out or check off a couple of I got to get, what do I got to do for the elite? 2 more patches.
You got to get up to the gunk.
Okay.
You got to do
Never
that.
been there.
Hey, you know what? Manitou tour is in March, so this month.
When?
March 23rd.
I think that's the same day as Tammany.
Oh, of course it is. I think it is, actually.
I think it's the same day as Tammany.
I have to do another solo one, looks like.
That's all right. That's all right.
But yeah, no, you're right. There are options. There's a lot that you can do that you haven't done. So yeah, I'm just looking.
I think I would prefer to do the long one solo. Nothing against like anybody, but I kind of I don't know.
You move at your own pace.
Well, you move at your own pace, and when I so how I've been treating these, when I do them, I've been really trying to push, treat it like not like a race, but try to get like I'm gonna be out there 6-7 hours. I want a quality, workout. I really want to, I don't want to just do this and have it be done and then just feel kind of fatigued. But okay, I'm gonna use these as an opportunity to see all this stuff and hang out at summits and take pictures and check stuff out that I'm seeing. But okay, now for the next 15 minutes, I want to like wreck myself on this climb.
Absolutely.
Or just hammer this section of the trail here. But they're fun. Never been to the gunk, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man.
I'll steal the GPX.
Yeah, I'll get it to you.
I'll pull it. I'll find it.
So the thing ends in 3 months. And then in August, we got the barbecue. So maybe you'll...
I'll be there.
I'm really interested to see who I hand that
there.
belt to. The belt came the other day in the mail. It's there. It's at my apartment. It's ready to go.
It's so funny to see this where I'm like competing for this belt here. Because I had a joke with Vanessa before she got the first belt.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was the thing, or that she was even like considered. I didn't know there was even that type of consideration or whatever, with Proactive. And I'd been following you guys for like before last year even. Like I was aware of you guys because I'm friends with her and Jason. So I was just seeing you post stuff and I'm like, what is this?
It's a good question.
Not skeptically, but I was like, what is this?
I know we're a little different than
but you were doing some really cool, like neat things. So I was like, what is going on here? And she made a joke with me that she was gonna build me like a WWE style like belt with a 3D printer that said she's going to have to tell me what it said. I'm going to have to ask her or look, but it was like Mountain Goat champion or something like that. And it was just so funny. Like the image of it was just hilarious. And then she got the belt and I think I was texting her, yes, all capital letters, the belt. I can't believe it. Yes, it's real. And so to be able to like get my name on the belt or just hold it up, it would be so cool.
Oh, you're right there, man.
I'll have to get like a little pig sticker to put on it.
Oh yeah. I like the presumption of it.
We'll see if it happens.
Hey, you're up there right now.
Whoever gets it, it'll just be very, very cool to go to the barbecue and physically see the belt.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
I am too. So it's been fun to connect with you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I got to make it out to more of the social events because now I talk to a bunch of the group members and people on social media and everything. But and that's how it is with a lot of people I run with or anything. It's on Strava or Instagram, and you have these connections with people that you don't really know in person, but you've got that connection to them or that understanding that they're a runner or a hiker. They just love getting after, you know, epic mountains and stuff. And whenever you get together, it's like your old friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Social media is funny like that. It's like the right use of social media.
Yes.
Is to be social with it.
Who would have thought? Would have thought?
When we used to meet people on the trails for the first time, they would come up to us and be like, "Hey, I'm at," and then give us their like handle. And it was always funny because we would introduce ourselves as like our handles. As opposed to our names at first.
My handle's my name, so it's,
mine too. So I had that.
it
Like,
leaves.
some people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, I'm like at Heart the Trails," and I'm like, "Oh, Heart the Trails, I know." You know, it would be like this whole thing. But yeah, that's a funny way of going about it.
It is. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I would have never met you had it not been for social media.
No.
No, probably
There's
not.
a lot. It's nice when you do, you know, when stuff works,
Absolutely.
like social media
Totally.
for meeting people.
I agree. All these runs and all these long races and all this that you've done, is there a particular product or item that you would recommend to people, whether that be a shoe, a pack, a watch, whatever?
Yeah. So the pack, the Solomon packs are, I think they're like the ADV or advanced skin packs. I use like a 12 liter, but they have all different sizes for it. And that's just how much you can fit in the back compartment.
Yep.
People like Osprey, there's a couple, you know, companies that they like, but the Solomon advanced skin packs are the most comfortable. They're actually a little bit warm, and they don't really move at all.
Yeah. That's big.
You'll see a lot of, and if you look them up, you'll recognize them from a lot of the top, you know, like ultra athletes, you know, competitors. That's what they'll use. But they're like, if you're doing something more like fast packing or, you know, longer kind of hiking routes, they have other, I think Osprey makes a really good one. That's a much bigger compartment, or Ultimate Direction, I think is another company. But the Solomon packs they're costly. They're more expensive than some of the other ones you could get, but
Yeah.
worth every penny. Yeah.
I think it's really important to have something solid on you as a pack, because I get very distracted by certain things when I'm running sometimes. So even the slightest fall of my pack or something like that will throw me off a little bit.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like compartments and storage that's readily available, so you don't have to take it off to access it. Yeah, so that's a pack that I'll never get rid of. And then shoes, Speed Goats are really, really good for long. You know, I like those things for like long, somewhat technical stuff. But
yeah,
for anything technical, VJ Maxes are like they're cheating for mountain running.
Is that right?
For
yeah.
Technical, yeah.
Are they that comfortable?
They're comfortable to like an extent. They're a stiff shoe. The VJ, like I'm wearing a pair of VJs right now. They're the Extreme 2s though. Those are faster, less comfortable, but they're much faster. So you're gonna do harder, you know, efforts in those. But the VJ Maxes, in terms of grip and like durability, I mean, you could jump on like a wet rock and just suck right down to it and not move at all. So those are, I mean, that's something I didn't find out about until a couple of years, you know, into running.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, I wouldn't wear them for anything more than like 50 miles, and that might be a stretch for them, but yeah, you can't beat the grip. Yeah, that you get with that.
The grip is so important because I ran through a few pairs of boots that were fading away, and when you lose that grip on them, it changes everything that you do. Yeah, useless.
Yeah, you feel like you're handicapped.
Yeah, for sure. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, those would be my two biggest, you know, gear recommendations. I don't like poles. I don't use poles.
Same.
Nutrition, whatever you like. You know, if you like gels, go for it. I don't love gels, but they work.
Yep.
Real food's a little bit better for the longer stuff. But yeah, whatever you can eat.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have a recommendation for any media that you might want to put out there? TV, music? book, film?
So the David Goggins books are pretty cool. I mean, he's not for everybody, but I just like listening to it 'cause he fires me up.
He's fired me up too.
Yeah.
I've listened to all of his audiobooks.
Yeah, those are pretty cool if you're just trying to get more out of life or just kind of open your mind to what's possible.
Yep.
Books, media. I don't know. I like a lot of trail running, race documentaries and stuff that I enjoy. Carl Sabi just did the PCT and just like reset the FKT this last summer, and they put a pretty cool documentary together on it for him. I forget what it's called.
I'll find it.
It's very new. Yeah, that was just a cool, and that's like 42 days, I think, that he went from Mexico to Canada.
42 days.
So it kind of blends ultra running and kind of fast packing or hiking. Because it's a pretty wild, trail if you're not familiar with it. There's like the desert, then you go right from the desert to the Sierras, and then you get through the Sierras and you're into Oregon, and then you get right through Oregon and you're into the Cascades in Washington State.
Unreal.
Yeah. So
I'm definitely more interested in the PCT than the Appalachian Trail.
I would be too.
Yeah, it just seems to be. I like that change of environment, like every segment,
Yeah, and they're big mountains. They're real mountains.
Yep.
And you, like you said, you see the desert, the high peaks, the Sierras with the snow, and then you hit the dense, green, never-ending pine forest of Washington.
It's a nice way to finish.
Yeah.
I'll find the name of that documentary though, and I'll pop that up in here.
Yeah, that one I just watched recently. That was cool. Yeah, it's a nice way to break up the treadmill.
Oh, I'm sure.
Run that I did that day.
It puts you in your head like you're out there.
It was better than looking at myself in the mirror.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of your own races.
Okay.
And I want you to just kind of give me either your greatest memory or put me into the place that you were at when you were there. So I'm going to start with the Tammany 10. And I know you've done it twice. You've won twice, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the Tammany 10.
It's, it's just a very repetitive and kind of grinded out race because you can't run up and down.
Yep.
And the weather's always seems to be bad. The 2 years I've done it, it hasn't been great. But yeah, just finally getting up, to the summit on the last time and knowing you just have to run across the ridge and then you're hitting the descent and going back down. That's always a very, very powerful moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like the first 4 laps, probably the most painful thing I do like ever because you're just redlining, trying to get through it. And then the next 4 suck. And then you're on 9 and 10 and it's like, oh. I definitely finally getting to do that race, like 2.5 years after I first signed up for it, and then being able to win it, twice now is crazy. Like that's where I first started hiking and everything. I don't think I'll do it, every year, but it's a very special, mountain for me.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the Breakneck Marathon.
So those trails are awesome. If you've ever done one of your challenges over there, you'll know those trails are awesome. But the race this year, the 4 takeaways that I'll say from it, in the first like mile and a half, I had some woman blow a snot rocket onto my calf.
Good start.
It's so stupid. And I just like took off and got away from her after that. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's a good reason.
There's no reason.
Yeah.
She hit it, and I was just like, ew. I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah.
And then there's, Devil's Ladder.
Yep.
So you come down that in mile 3, and this is one of those see you later moments. This guy these 3 people came screaming down the ladder and like redlining the descent, and it's not a good descent to redline,
No.
especially mile 3 of a marathon.
Yeah.
And one guy got next to me and he caught a rock like on his toe and just face planted. And I was like, I yelled. I'm like, is he have a face?
That's what I would imagine.
And he like popped right back up and kept going and kept going and
Good
kept
for him.
going. And then like I passed him on the breakneck climb and never saw him again. And then flies. There were the worst little black flies that I've ever experienced in my life on one of the late climbs in the race. And yeah, just like horrific. Somebody was having a panic attack behind me because of them, and I was like, we're almost there. Like, just keep coming.
They are hard to ignore when they're going crazy like that.
Yeah. And then right when I got to that, it was like the last 10K, and I just cranked, like I caught like 12 people in the last like 6 miles, which is always a very satisfying way to like end a day. But yeah, that was just a party. If you go out and just want to hang out there and check it out, it's like a festival. That's a cool experience.
Let's talk about Eastern States.
So the second time is better. But Eastern States is again just like a big party. They probably have easily over 1,000 people there for the weekend of the race, between, you know, runners, pacers, crew, spectators, volunteers, you know, people just helping out with it. Yeah, I'll be bummed not to do that one this year. I'll probably do it again in the future. Every aid station you get to is like a little different, but they're all done very well.
Yep.
And they have different like themes to them, and you know, you just see some strange things. And it's just one big, you know, loop that you do. So it's that, from that perspective, it's very exciting to just see new and, you know, new miles and new stuff. There's not many views, but
that's interesting. Not too many views though.
no, there's two views that I've gotten, that I've seen, and
Minimal distractions.
They're both very nice, but yeah, it's you're just going.
You're just in it at that point.
And when night comes, you're in like a green tunnel for 8 hours.
That's like way different than the Breakneck, anything on Breakneck and Tammany, where you got views most of the way.
Yeah, there's not much to see.
Not much to look at.
If you don't like trees.
And then we talked about it a little bit before. We talked about all these a little bit before, but Hudson Highlands. Hell no, hell hole, Hundo. It might have been backwards, but
that one, you got it. There's no mistaking it.
No mistaking it.
Yeah, that was a lot of rain, but smiles every mile. I mean, I had friends the whole time. Yeah, there was really never like, why am I out here, or why am I doing this? Oh, I should just quit. This is too hard moment. It was fun the whole time.
It's you know, it's funny, the few people that I know that run with you or have run with you always speak about how you were one of the most positive people. Despite the fact that you're doing these crazy things, you probably should be like incapable of happiness.
Yeah.
At a certain point.
You trick yourself.
It's a big thing. I think I read a book recently about how much easier it makes things when you're smiling when you're doing them.
Yeah.
And like, you just even if you keep the fake smile on, it does help you.
Well, you take an action, change a thought.
That's right.
You know, it's put a smile on and start joking around and laughing. You might actually become happy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The brain works in very mysterious way.
It's you're here. It's not going to get easier if you're, you know, a sourpuss.
No, it doesn't help.
Over everything.
Does not help.
No.
We talked about this a little bit before too, but the Wanaki Derby.
Yeah, something I probably won't do again. Not because it wasn't. No, I might do it again, but it's not like the Beacon Bully. I'm curious to go do. I think we spoke about it. I'm curious to go back and do it again and add some extra, a couple extra things to it.
Yep.
But the Wenatchee Derby there's some views, and they're not like massive mountains that you're climbing, but some of the climbs are so steep where you're just going straight up these like loose trail, routes, or trying to figure out if you're on the trail, if this is a trail. Yeah. But that was very satisfying to do that one, because I wouldn't have seen most of that stuff had I not. And then, finishing it and wrapping it up, it's like a very, cool, satisfying experience to do anything new like that, and on a big scale. Because like I did, like I said, the Stone Town, and that was fun, but it was, it was like quick, it was new. I got lost a couple of times, but not that it was over before. It took a while, and it's like 10 brutal miles, but it was just a much quicker kind of snippet.
Yeah.
And whenever I get to do something that's just like a huge loop, it's neat.
Yeah, for sure. And I do like that within Wenatchee Derby, you get to Stone Town like 15 miles in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're already in there.
You save the best for last. Yeah.
And then tell me about Devil's Path.
That's one I want to go back and do when there's no ice, because it was fun and challenging and really awesome to experience all of it, in one shot.
Yep.
But with like the spikes, like the micro spikes, my friend his name's Justin too, that did it with me. We had to take them off and put them on like almost a dozen times.
Oh yeah, because there were certain spots that had no ice, I'm sure.
And it was no ice to the point where it actually was dangerous to run with the spikes on.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you can just kind of roll through it, and find the dirt, and there's only a couple of rocks, but it was either you absolutely needed them or you didn't want them at all.
Yeah.
So it was very, tedious having to like take them off, roll them up, store them, start running again up. Stop, take them out, put them on. Yeah. But that was another one that you get done and it's like, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Any of the point to point or the big circle stuff, it's always an adventure.
I mean, the Devil's Path's reputation just makes it cool enough alone to finish, being like one of the most difficult hikes in the East Coast,
It is, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Every time we go there, we see a lot of people doing it in 2 nights when we're usually doing it in one. And it's just nice to know you get it all in one shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the second half is a little easier.
I think it's we had this discussion before. It's always messed me up more on the second half.
Oh, really?
Because we wind up hanging out in the car or even just taking even if you take a short break,
you got to push
that middle part. You got to go push through there.
Yeah.
I just never enjoy climbing back up Hunter. It always just gets.
That was nice. I like that. I like that one because you came down and then it's like, oh, Hunter, it's slightly runnable.
Yeah, no, it is. It is once you get up that little first climb.
Yeah. You're just kind of switch back and through, and then we can run.
Yeah,
you can. It's flowing now. Yeah.
Last one. Tell me about Manitou's Revenge.
It's I've said it already. It's got to be one of, if not the hardest 50-mile race in the world. And it's right here. So if anyone's done Devil's Path or the Escarpment or any of those trails up there, you're familiar with what that terrain looks like. And it's just sharp rocks the whole way. But it's a 51 or 52 mile point to point, and awesome race director Charlie Godot does such a good job with that race every year, from the aid stations, and a lot of those people have to like carry the aid in to some of those places. Just done really well. It's such a big deal, up in the Catskills and that, community up there, that there's never a shortage of, volunteers or people, checking out like the finish line and all that. And just from like an adventure aspect, it really is just, you're going 50 miles through like some of the sharpest terrain you can find.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to do that again this year. Hopefully no rain.
Hopefully
I don't want to jinx it. Maybe I did.
Fingers crossed.
Everyone's going to hate me.
Because now they have it on video.
Yeah.
Of you jinxing it.
It's here. They know who to blame.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Word association.
Association.
Let's just see how this goes. All right. Vert.
Pig.
Perseverance.
Life.
Trail running.
Excellent.
Tammany.
Meaningful.
Motivation.
Bullshit.
Cardio.
It's fun.
Goals.
Bigger.
Potential.
Relative.
Breakneck.
Hard.
Ultras.
Exciting.
Hiking.
Boring.
Running.
Better.
Mountains.
Heaven.
Well, Justin, man, the things that you do inspire a lot of people within our community. I'm constantly impressed by your personality and your basically the way you hold yourself throughout all of this. You are very positive. It is an inspiration. Thank you for being here today. Is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. This is cool. I'm glad I made the trip to see the studio and everything.
I'm glad you did too.
It's definitely worth it. Yeah,
definitely.
It's been a pleasure to know you and meet some of the other members and check out these awesome areas that I wouldn't have seen.
Hey, we appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram is probably the best way, or Strava. My Strava is Justin Lewandowski, and my Instagram is @Justin_Lewandowski_.
Awesome.
So pretty easy.
Well, thanks again for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I'm Joe. You can find us at Proactive AHW on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Facebook. That's Justin. I'm Joe. That's Jared. And that's it. There we go.
All right.
That's it.
Very cool.
Thanks, man.